So I want to tell y'all about the time where I witnessed the mental health system and the legal system use a traffic ticket from years ago to keep a patient in the psych hospital for a month. Welcome back to Jay's Psych Ward Stories.
We are living in a psych ward. I'm quite sure this is psych ward. I'm quite sure.
So when I was working as a technician in the hospital, I did not know all of the weapons that they had at their disposal to keep a patient in the hospital. Now, I was dang near fresh off of being a teenager when I started working in the psych ward. And so I was very much so learning, green behind the ears, but I had my eyes wide open. And for many, many reasons, I didn't just trust institutions right off the bat when I saw that they were doing informed care, but I definitely was not hip to all of the various points of access that they had to keeping patients hospitalized. So there was an individual, a patient that felt suicidal, right? He felt like he was going to harm himself, but he didn't have a plan. And so he comes to the psych ward in order to rest for a few days, to talk and get some therapy, some resources, and to go about his merry way. This individual had been to the psych ward before, but it had been years. Last time they went is when they were a rebellious teenager and their parents were sending them there in order to get a break. And he only went like a couple of times when things got really bad for him during his tumultuous teenage years, which he so described. So he gets to the ward, and after a few days and he's ready to leave, he's like, hey, do you guys know when I'll be able to get out of here? Because I'm feeling much better. I know you guys have a process. Being very agreeable, right? Not trying to be difficult at all. Well, there's so many different ways in which you can be released, or so many different requirements that can be presented before you by a healthcare professional, such as a psychiatrist, right, or your doctor, that can weigh on you leaving or staying. And so the psychiatrist said something that seems fair. He said, you know what? Well, I know you were suicidal, you didn't have a plan, but I don't just want to release you and then you get those feelings again and you were only here for a few days for rest. Even though when you know yourself, you're like, well, listen, I got the rest, I got the coping skills and the resources. I do want to live, which is why I'm here. So I'm telling you, I'm not going to do that, and I know, but it's just not that easy, right? Like on the surface, I think that should be good enough, but at the same time, you have to have that assurance because people do change their mind, and the way that America is set up, lawsuits can have people living off you for life, and you're just completely done as a company now. Like that's just how it is. As a hospital, lose your license. So there's a lot of guardrails in place to protect people. But the doctor said you have to identify somebody at home that can vouch for you and that will advocate for you and that will hold you accountable to staying alive, essentially. Now, this person didn't necessarily have anybody in their corner in their life, and the only person that they could produce was their mother. And they had some current conflict with that individual at the time. And so the patient tried to politic with the doctor like, well, listen, I don't have the best relationship with my mom right now. I'm living alone. I'm working. I don't really have that many close relationships at the moment because I was focused on myself. So I don't have anybody other than my mother who could vouch, but I haven't seen her in a while. We don't live together. And the doctor says, you need somebody in order for me to feel comfortable releasing you right now. And when a doctor says something like that, and with authority, you're going to be like, okay, I guess I gotta choose my only option. So he chooses his mother, and his mother had no idea about his current mental state and situation. And he tries to tell mom a version of events and how he just stopped by the hospital for a little bit of help. He doesn't give her the whole spiel, but she ends up calling up to the hospital, notifying the doctors and staff that, hey, I've been very concerned about my son because he hasn't talked to me. He's been isolating. And she kind of paints a story, a scenario of danger, doom, and gloom. This leads the doctor to pull out a move that a lot of people that have encounters with the psych ward don't know is possible, and that is to petition you to go to court. So yes, whether you are voluntary or involuntary, if you decide that you want to leave the psychiatric facility and you want to go involuntary, so you're no longer saying I need to be here, I want to be here, and I'm actually good to go. If the psychiatrist disagrees, they can raise this issue to the court system and have a judge determine in psych court if you should get up to 30 days of inpatient treatment, up to 60 days of outpatient treatment. This is in the state of Michigan. I'm not sure how they might do it in other places, what the daily requirements are, but I know that it's like that in other states as well, some of them. So this patient not only has to wait in the psych ward while his court date is coming about, but once the court date comes about, I'm there escorting the patient to court. and they're just simply pleading their case. They're annoyed at this point at the long process that this entails, but they're being impressively patient. They speak for themselves in a good way before the judge. They have the court appointed attorney that is saying all of the basic things, saying that the patient displays the ability to take care of themselves. They don't present suicidal ideations. They have gone to groups. They have been in the psychiatric facility, not causing any harm or hurt to others or themselves. You know, all of those things that should constitute them getting out. Do y'all know that the defense went into the file of that patient and found a traffic ticket from 7 years prior where they were going 100 plus miles per hour, and use that as a justification for why that individual is unpredictable, mentally unstable, can't be trusted to take care of their own faculties? And the look on the patient's face before the judge was one of bewilderment, to think that something in their past could come up to inform their current hospitalization in the moment of crisis is something that you don't expect. He's looking at the prosecuting side. I don't know the legalese terms, y'all, so forgive me. But the prosecuting attorney, I believe, you would think she thinks this man is about to be up out of here. But you can tell that she didn't have a true concern for his well-being, but more so informing her job and position to be against. Right? It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, how are we here playing all these roles, but the main person that we're seeking to take care of, it seems like they've done something wrong or they're being punished for something. It's a very, very interesting system that you should know about before going, because this man was just coming to get some help, and you hear about these psychiatric facilities, it's like, why wouldn't I go? And that's why I created Jay's Psych Ward Survival Guide. I got the physical copy, or you can get a digital copy, and it essentially goes over all of the things you need to know before you enter into the psych ward. Things like what happens once you get to the doors, things that you should have prepared and have your mind prepared for before you go to the psych ward. Are psych wards helpful? Yes, on the surface, if you know before you go. But a lot of people end up getting harmed when they don't know about how these institutions work, when they aren't going in with a plan, but they're just in the middle of crisis. You don't have the capacity to be thinking about how these things work in the moment, which is why I want you to be able to be out of that moment thinking of these things so that you can at least be prepared when you go. And if you're still in crisis and you happen to just pull this out, like you're busting the glass on an AED or a fire extinguisher and you're at the gates of the psych ward, this will help you to be able to navigate while you're in there as well, so that if there's anything you missed, you don't have to dig yourself any deeper into trouble and you can actually dig yourself out. I will say this. There was somebody that had called me to the psych ward. They were local enough for me to make the trek and travel. They asked for my assistance on behalf of somebody that was in the psych ward. And I came with their permission to visit them during visiting hours. And I brought them a copy of Jay's Psych Ward Survival Guide. Their psychiatrist was trying to release them in another 10 days, right? They said maybe at the end of next week. And it was the beginning of the week that they were in at the moment. And once I came in and I visited with that individual, heard out their plight, heard about some things going on in the facility, gave them that guide and that book, they got out in 2 days. In 2 days. So this is your beginner's guide. This might be your sign to make sure you know before you go. Additionally, if you want to join a group of people struggling with their mental health at different levels, some of the strongest people I've ever met are in my school community, the Psych Ward Survival Club. It's a great space where we have weekly discussions. People can share their insights about the psych ward. There's some people that are thinking about going, some people that have never been, some people that are constantly going, some people that are in there right now as we speak. And we just come together and share in a destigmatized place, because online, you don't want people knowing all your business. You don't want, you want to be around people that get it, that understand, and that aren't going to judge you, and that can relate and make you have some woosah and reprieve about having mental health issues and knowing you don't have a third eye for being in that place. So make sure you check out the links in the comment section. And as always, like for more stories.